Everyone wants that someone to match with in a couple's costume this Halloween. Our immediate response to finding someone nowadays is usually to look on a dating app, swipe right on your soulmate, and easily find our happily ever after. However, this isn't always the case, as people don't always have the best intentions when swiping left or right on those dating apps. In fact, some of these people's intentions are quite murderous as they search on Tinder and Grindr, preying on the next victim. Today we have a special Halloween episode. Here are 5 dating app murder stories that took place on Grindr and Tinder to be aware of when searching for your next date this Halloween. The first of the dating app murder stories is about a woman named Ashlyn Black, who was a 25-year-old woman who resided in Layton, Utah. She was swiping on Tinder one night when she matched with 24-year-old Ethan Robert Hunsaker. He picked her up and went to a local bar, and they got to know each other over a few drinks. After the day, they went back to Ethan's place, which barely had any furniture. They engaged in intimate activities, then cuddled afterwards on the floor. According to his own account, Ethan woke up in the middle of the night and started choking Ashlyn as hard as he could for 1 minute. He stabbed her multiple times in the sides, chest, and back. He watched her for 10 minutes as she was bleeding out, then called 911 around 3:20 a.m. to turn himself in. He told dispatch on the phone that he didn't know Ashlyn and would like officers that arrived on the scene to kill him. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Ethan had confessed to the police officers that he had mental health issues and struggled with thoughts of murderous actions and suicide. The second story on our list is about a woman named Sydney Loofe, matched with Bailey Boswell on Tinder and went on a date November 14th, 2017. They both had planned on a second date the next night. Then, on November 16th, 2 days after their first date, Sydney's mom reported her missing. Aubrey Trell was Bailey Boswell's boyfriend, and they both assisted with murdering Sydney Loofe. Aubrey told the investigators that he strangled Sydney with an extension cord. Then Bailey helped Aubrey dismember her body and put the remains in garbage bags. They threw the bags into a field and left her body there to rot. 1 month after her disappearance in December, her dismembered body was found in garbage bags at a field near Edgar, Nebraska.
Rod Megan, almost 3 years after the murder and dismemberment of 24-year-old Sydney Loofe, a jury has found 26-year-old Bailey Boswell guilty on all counts after just a few hours of deliberation.
All Aubrey had told news outlets was that her death was an accident, but didn't go into more detail as to how it was accidental. Nebraska is considering the death penalty for this murderous couple. Our third story happened on August 17th, 2020. There were 3 shootings that night in Fort Worth, Texas. One thing in common: all victims were found on the dating site Grindr. Demarcus Gray, a resident from Waco, Texas, met all 3 of these victims on Grindr and messaged them, making plans to meet all 3 guys that night. The first shooting took place at 12:30 a.m., where the first victim took cover at a convenience store. He then met 23-year-old Jonathan Breeding right after the first shooting and shot him in his car. Jonathan was found at 2:15 a.m. in his car that had crashed near an intersection and was pronounced dead at the scene. DeGray had been listed as a suspect on all 3 shooting charges. There is a warrant out for the arrest issued on October 8th. Our 4th story is about Stephen Port, who was a trained chef featured in an episode of Celebrity MasterChef. Even though Port seemed to be a successful man with a bright future ahead of him, he unfortunately had a dark side. Port was also Grindr's serial killer who met with his victims, overdosed them, and continued to sexually assault them. Instead of admitting to killing them, he's going to say that they caused their own deaths. His family admitted that the Grindr killer shows 0 remorse. After killing Walgate, he pled guilty to perverting the course of justice and was sentenced to 8 months in prison. Before his sentence, he managed to kill 2 more people, Kavari and Whitworth. The police found and forged a suicide note from Whitworth, stating that he accidentally killed Kavari with the date rape drug and took his own life because he felt bad. However, this was soon proven to be false once they figured out Port had really killed him. After he was released in prison, he killed Taylor 3 months later. The families of the victims have threatened to sue the police responsible for letting these deaths slide by, claiming that their homophobic tendencies kept them away from deeming this case important. They would be right on the case and would find out who did it immediately.
That sick, twisted scumbag will never be able to hurt or destroy anyone else's family or life. Jack can finally rest in peace. We will always be completely heartbroken as a family.
This 5th story is definitely the worst. 25-year-old Kevin Bacon was chatting with a man twice his age on Grindr during Christmas Eve of 2019. He told his friend Michelle Myers that he was going to meet with his Grindr date in person, but didn't tell her where he was going. She tried calling him, but he didn't answer his phone. She became suspicious that something was very wrong and reported that back to Kevin's phone. His parents called the Clayton Township Police. The police were able to track and locate Kevin's phone along with his wallet and some articles of clothing in Kevin's car. Police were able to get his car unlocked and look through his phone to find Grindr messages between him and his Grindr date, Mark Lutunsky. On December 28th, police asked Mark if they could search his home and found a hidden room in his basement. As they walked inside the room, they found Kevin hanging upside down with his testicles cut off, lifeless. That's when Mark admitted to stabbing Kevin in the back of his neck, slitting his throat, and then cooking his testicles so that he could eat them.
Gut-wrenching to hear the details, and we're just beside ourselves. I don't think we've had the time
to process everything yet.
Yeah, to process everything. It's been so fast-paced the past few days.
Which story was the craziest story you heard today? Leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. And sleep with the lights on tonight. Happy Halloween.